Plainville's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Our top story, a 28-year-old Billings man awaiting his sentence after he admitted chasing down, shooting and killing his ex-girlfriend on Blue Creek Road last fall has died. Taylor Plainbull was found unresponsive in his jail cell in Basin, Wyoming last night. Sheriff Kenneth Blackburn of Bighorn County, Wyoming tells Q2 that both jail and medical personnel tried to revive Plainbull, although no foul play is suspected. Jail authorities immediately contacted the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation, which will now conduct an independent investigation into the death. In early March, Plainbull pleaded guilty to second-degree murder of 26-year-old Lenita Goes-Ahead. On October 24th, Plainbull chased her down, forced her vehicle off the road, then shot and killed Goes-Ahead in front of their child. 3 days later, Plainbull was taken into custody after a standoff with Billings police at the Roadway Inn. Plainbull's sentencing date had been set for July 23rd, and he had faced life in prison. Well, more than 2 years after a young Bighorn County girl went missing and nearly 2 months after authorities recovered a child's body from the Crow Reservation, 2 women have been tried, convicted, and sentenced, but not for her death. Tribal prosecutor David Sibley tells Q2 both 34-year-olds Veronica Tirza Dust and Rosine Lincoln Old Crow were tried and sentenced yesterday in connection to the death of Mildred Old Crow. Sibley says both women were found guilty of endangering the welfare of a child and custodial interference, and both received 18 months in jail and $2,000 fines. The tribal chair confirmed back in February that 8-year-old Mildred Old Crow's body was found and recovered from an old camper near Gary Owen. Mildred was reported missing in November of 2019 when she was just 6 years old. Tirza Dust and Lincoln Old Crow were captured as fugitives from justice in Billings on December 23rd. The Crow tribe had issued warrants a week before, stating the women failed to produce the child, nor was any proof of life provided. When asked if Bighorn County was looking to file any charges in Mildred's death, County Attorney Jay Harris says the matter remains under investigation. Harris does say he plans to review tribal courtroom testimony from Monday's trial. Billings Police Chief Rich St. John taking a deeper dive into the annual report that was just released. The chief held a Facebook Live event tonight for the public. Now, we told you about some of the highlights in that report last Friday night. Despite the pandemic, Billings police were busy responding to close to 100,000 calls. The most common was for suspicious activity. But violent crimes like aggravated assault were also up, and criminal homicides were at the highest number in more than a decade with 16. The chief addressed some of the reasons behind those numbers.
Again, the thing that we're talking about is that these aren't random. People know each other. They have some sort of relationship. They have some sort of common interest, and the common denominator in all of these is methamphetamine.
The chief says the majority of those criminal homicides have now been solved, but he says he's also concerned about a rise in violent aggravated assaults. Well, tonight, an update on a story we've been following closely since last night at this time. The Billings City Council passed an ordinance that they hope will rid the city of sex trafficking businesses. That 8-3 vote happened just after midnight. The new ordinance requires all massage providers to obtain a special license and pass a background check. Experts say there are at least 12 illicit sex trafficking businesses in Billings disguised as massage therapy. And there are new developments tonight in the shooting death of Donte Wright in Minnesota. The officer who allegedly mistook her gun for a taser is resigning, and so is her boss, the police chief. And Wright's mother is opening up about her final frantic phone call with her son. Omar Villafranca reports from Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
2 days after the fatal encounter with Donte Wright, 2 resignations and possible criminal charges. The officer who fired the fatal shot, Kim Potter, and Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon, both turning in their badges.
I'm hoping that this will help bring some calm to the community.
Tonight, new details about Potter, a 26-year police veteran. She was training another officer when Wright was pulled over for an expired tag. Officers discovered he had an outstanding warrant and struggled with Wright as they tried to handcuff him. But instead of a taser, Potter pulled her pistol and fired.
I just shot him. Yes!
Many question how the veteran officer could confuse a brightly colored taser, like the one in this photo, with a much heavier and darker colored handgun. Officers are trained to not look at their weapons, but to focus on the suspect.
If they're reacting very quickly because there's a fast breaking situation, they're not going to perceive the color before they actually fire the taser.
In the last 20 years, there have been 18 cases where an officer confused their weapons and fired at suspects. 5 died. 2 officers have been charged. Wright's mother told supporters that she was on the phone with the woman in Donte's car moments after the shooting.
And it was on a FaceTime. And she said, she was crying and screaming, and she said that they shot him. And my son was laying there, unresponsive.
My Lord.
That was the last time that I seen my son.
There's a curfew in effect for Minneapolis, St. Paul, and for here in Brooklyn Center. But as you can see, there's still hundreds of protesters out, and they say they plan to be here for a while. The Washington County District Attorney, the DA that will be handling this case, says he will decide by tomorrow if any criminal charges will be filed against Potter. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota.
Well, today, Governor Greg Gianforte issued an executive order prohibiting vaccine passports in Montana. This order blocks the state from requiring a vaccine to access state services or facilities. It also blocks state-issued or funded vaccine passports and sharing a person's vaccination status. In addition, the order blocks businesses from requiring customers to show proof of vaccination. Governor Gianforte said, quote, "I strongly encourage Montanans to get a safe, effective COVID-19 vaccine, which is our best path to protect our family and friends and get back to a more normal life." He goes on to say receiving one is entirely voluntary and will not be mandated by the state of Montana nor compelled through vaccine passports, vaccine passes, or other compulsory means. We're committed to protecting individual liberty and personal privacy, end quote. Well, abortion opponents came up short today in Helena to put a state constitutional amendment on the 2022 ballot that would essentially ban all abortions. House Bill 337 would amend the Constitution to say that life begins at conception and that a fertilized human egg has all the rights of a person. A proposed constitutional amendment needs the positive votes of 100 state lawmakers to go before voters. 30 state senators voted for the bill, giving it a total of only 96 votes from the House and Senate. Faces one more Senate vote this week, but today's total indicates it won't clear the 100 vote hurdle. Not one Democrat has voted for the measure. The opponents of the bill noted it's the 6th anti-abortion bill that has been put through the legislature this session, and said all of them take away the right of women to decide their own health care. Supporters, including floor sponsor Senator Tom McGilvray of Billings, said it's clear that human life begins at conception.
This bill is about human beings, looking out for human beings. This is about civility, this is about decency, and this is about humanity. And I would just urge us to go with our gut, go with our instinct. We know that that baby is a person.
I've had a right to make medical decisions about my own body for 50 years in this country, thanks to the United States Supreme Court. 50 years. So I have a message to the women of the state of Montana. You heard that the governor has a comeback plan. He has a setback plan. He's setting you back 50 years. He's not moving Montana forward. He's setting us back.
Well, today, the state Senate endorsed another bill to limit the powers of local public health officers when responding to an outbreak of an infectious disease like COVID-19. House Bill 257, which has already passed the House, says a county or public health department can't enact any laws or rules that order a business to deny access to customers. It also says local governments or health officers can't enforce such a law with any fines or penalties. The Senate endorsed the measure on a 30-20 vote, with all but one vote against it by Senate Democrats. Opponents of the bill say it essentially ties the hands of local health officials trying to limit the spread of an infectious disease. But Republican Senator Jason Ellsworth of Hamilton said House Bill 257 is needed to protect businesses.
It is not up to local health officials to sit there and make specific mandates on a private business that at the end of the day will put them out of business. And if a patron does not want to go into that business, guess what? We're in America. It's a free country. You don't have to.
House Bill 257 faces one last vote in the Senate and then another one in the House before it would go to the governor for his signature. To campus news, graduation ceremonies for MSU Billings will be back in person at Metro Park in May. MSUB was forced to cancel last year's event due to COVID. This year, the school will hold two separate commencement ceremonies, May 1st. Some graduates will go through at 10 a.m. and other graduates will follow at 2 p.m. All attendees will need a ticket to attend, but there's no limit to how many guests a graduate can have. Rocky Mountain College will hold its commencement ceremony Saturday, April 17th, this Saturday, on campus at Fortin Center. The college will host graduating students in person and provide a live stream for family and friends off campus. The three Billings public high schools will graduate inside First Interstate Arena on Sunday, May 30th. Graduates are expected to be able to invite at least 6 guests. University of Montana announced today it will host an in-person graduation ceremony for the class of 2020 and 2021. 2 in-person commencement ceremonies are set for Saturday, May 1st at Washington Grizzly Stadium. Because of COVID-19, only students who RSVP'd and their 4 invited guests are allowed to attend. Everyone will be required to wear masks and socially distance. A live stream of UM commencement will also be available that day. Well, another top official at St. Vincent Healthcare is stepping down. This afternoon, hospital CEO Steve Lovelace announced he'll transition to the field of executive coaching. Lovelace, who's been the president at the hospital for 10 years, will be stepping down on April 30th. At that time, Lovelace will transition from a wider role of leadership to one more specific in the role of an executive coach. Lovelace said his new job will be to help and support business leaders in growth of their skills, but he's unsure if he and his family will remain here in Montana. Current Chief Operating Officer for SCL Health Montana, Michael Skehan, will serve as interim president. During his time, Lovelace was most proud of bringing the engagement levels of physicians from as low as they could be up to the 93rd percentile, which he said boils down to listening.
Frankly, when you boil it down, it's been that. It's how we engage one another and how we plan together to move things forward. And that really has been the secret. It's been transparency. It's been candor. It's been an invitation to come in and be part of solutions, and they have stepped up to the plate.
The search for a new president could last up to 6 months. On Saturday, Ty Elkin, the St. Vincent Healthcare Foundation executive director, announced that he'll leave the hospital to work at Stockman Bank at the end of the month. Well, still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. The fight against the coronavirus takes a potentially devastating hit today. We'll have details on that. And then a little later in sports, the Locomotives of Laurel off to a blazing start on the diamond. We'll show you the sweet recipe behind their success coming up in just a bit.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock.